speaking against them because only Allah knows what's in their heart. But I agree with you. The celebrity culture, the general how we conduct with one another when we disagree is absolutely something that can make it
everybody's human. There's people who are like assholes from every background, right? You could be an atheist and be ridiculous. You could be a Muslim and be ridiculous. You could be Christian and not have akhlaq and not know how to talk to people. We can expect that because of the human condition. But the issue with the Salafis particularly is that it's a part of their manhaj to not, like I said, don't pray behind the Ash'ari, don't sit with them. If you sit with them, you are sitting with Ahlul Bid'ah. Right? So akhlaq is one thing, a character and how you express yourself is one thing, but I think it's like a part and parcel of their of how they operate and how the religion functions for them. That this is a part of their religion, right? To takfir and to identity and Siddiq and the rest of it. And if that's the case, then that's a repelling phenomenon, I would say. Hey, Assalamu alaikum. Long time no see, Zanera.
I'm not Muslim anymore.
Oh wow.
You're not Muslim? I was
Okay, Zanera. Are you Christian or atheist? Or?
I went back to Christianity.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Since when?
Like a few weeks ago.
Okay, Catholic or Protestant?
I'm attending the Catholic Church.
Oh, nice, my favorite.
It's not nice. What happened?
I ran into this argument, and it's really bothering me. And the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, nah. I feel like Islam it heavily relies on, do you trust the Prophet? Like everything goes back to like that's it. It's him. And I'm just like, I'm good. I'm not even.
How long have you been Muslim?
2 years.
Okay, 2 years. Okay.
Yeah, wow, Zanera. Yeah, no, on one hand, I'm a little surprised. On the other hand, I feel good for you. I'm happy for you. And I'm happy that you chose Catholicism and not Protestantism. That makes me feel good inside. I love Roman Catholicism. So wow, I'm still processing, so yeah.
I did a little experiment today, so like that, you have all this feedback on your mic. What's going on?
Oh, I do? Oh, I'm sorry.
Or is it me? I don't know. Is it me?
It's him.
It's him? Okay, I don't know. Okay. So I did this little experiment today. I opened up this room this morning about that guy who got killed for burning the Quran. You know, the Swedish guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I just opened the room.
This past week, it's just been, I'm like doing things. I was scuba diving. I was doing all these different things, but like I'm just reflecting on. I popped into spaces here and there, and people were asking questions. And as I've been reflecting on it, like Auda was saying, not that Auda said this. Just to be clear, I'm saying it from my own perspective. I think I was maybe a little too dismissive of. Yeah, I think at first a lot of questions were coming at me from like, is this the end for NVIDIA? Is this the end for AI? Is blah, blah, blah. Does this mean, things have changed? And I was a little dismissive because I think I was annoyed by the way the media portrayed it and the story that was going in the media. And I think what I'd like to do is emotionally reset and come back at it from a perspective of people in AI, this is news to them. It's very exciting. It's exciting in the emotion sense. So it can be exciting in causing fear. It can be exciting in causing happiness and anticipation. and I just want to figure out a way to communicate a little bit better on this. So I've been working on a metaphor. I figure I can kind of like experiment with it and talk to people about it. I have a couple of ideas on tweets I was thinking of drafting, and maybe doing like a tweetorial of sorts. Sorry, I know they're probably called X, but it didn't really work.
Just post.
Postorial, yeah, I guess I could call it a postorial. That'll work. Yeah, I'll call it a postorial. I'll do a postorial. And yeah, so that's just to set the stage. How does that sound?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. How long you want to do this for?
I mean, the right answer would be until the cake is made. But practically speaking, let's give it like an hour and see where we are.
Sure, we can do this for an hour, and then we can shift to MySpace if that's fine with everyone.
Oh, we could just shift there now if you want, honestly. Because if we do it that way, it'll be a lot easier, because then maybe 30 minutes or so I can just kind of drop off. I think it's a little more scheduled and structured that way.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, sure, let's do it. I'll go there and make one, and we'll reconvene there. And anyone who needs to have that recorded, Blyce can hook you up with a recording if you'd like, of that space.
Yeah, honestly, the only reason why I even hit the record on this is because I was like, I always do these last minute, and then everybody's always like, that was really good, you should have recorded it.
All unrecorded spaces are the same. They're like super good, always for some reason.
Because I did one with like slides, and I taught everybody how neural nets work, and everybody's like, this is really good, you should do class. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll record it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, see you over there.
Hello. Testing. Is all working well?
Yeah, it's all working.
Perfect. I'll send it to you via co-host. Okay, sorry I'm a little bit late. I had some things I needed to do. I just came back from the factory. I'm about to make lunch. Yeah.
You see the Tesla robotaxi, like self-cleaning robotic thing? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I think that looks cool.
Yeah, this was obvious since the beginning. I even had floated this exact idea on Spaces, I think almost like half a year ago, maybe even more at this point, where I said, hey, if you have a robotaxi service, you already got robots, why don't you automate the cleaning thing to the point where basically now you get to have everything happen 24/7. You don't have any human intervention. Well, the human intervention is also, from its own nature, biological, right? So you could just have it all be automated and robots cleaning everything, or at least come up with a process to clean it more efficiently. That was kind of the specifics of what I'd stated, but it looks like they're just going to have this, and whatever that is probably going to work out very well. I do wonder, however, what they're going to do when it comes to, say, for instance, biological incidents, like, for instance, if you have a person who's intoxicated, falls in the back of the seat, does some shit, vomits everywhere. How are you going to clean that up, right? Or do you have like some sort of protocol where you say, okay, maybe this car is fucked, we're going to have to get this guy to go elsewhere, so we can actually have it cleaned up by a human, something like that. We'll see. I don't know. Should be interesting.
Or they might like supplement it with like a couple Optimi to help clean up the really tough things. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not Optimi, but you could just have like interior power wash and power drying with like, you need like good drainage and some other things, but at a minimum, I think sensors would be doable, and you could send it to a cleaning station.
Yeah. Sure. Looks cool though.
All right, messaging the listeners now.
Nice.
Yeah, look for his request.
I'm quote posting now.
Oh yeah, everybody quote post the space, let's join the conversation so more people can join. And then let's get the show done. Yeah.
There we go.
It's not even welcome back. You went into his space.
It's true. I'm so used to hosting. It's like a thing that's, ingrained in my brain.
Exactly. Yeah, and this also allows me not to have to monitor two things at the same time while we're talking, because I will be writing on another thing while we're talking. Just so people know, this is part of my process. So if anybody has any concerns about that, we could just get that up there. I'm just trying to use this as a way of coming up with a way to communicate with folks who are non-engineers, and I will promise that I will make sure that the nuance is correct, as where I don't think it's a big thing if it's incorrect, or if it's fuzzy, for example, and others can tell me if it makes sense. And I think we'll know we've reached success if we can use the metaphor to come to conclusions that I'm not presenting, but I agree are accurate.
Nice. That sounds a little like the Socratic method.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. That would mean it's a useful metaphor. Otherwise, it's just, a story. It doesn't really do any good.
I do like being able to just go from one space to another. It has this online neighborhood feel. It's like, oh, Adrian's got the command station. Let's go next door to his house.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Cool. All right. Do you want me to start it? Kick it off?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So the first thing I want to point out is a lot of it's going to be personal reflection. So just be warned. I think last time I was a little bit dismissive of the notion of open weight models. I've been reflecting on that a little bit more. And I think one good thing that does come out of the DeepSeek paper is a demonstration of the value of open source models. The irony is those open source models are Llama and Quen, not DeepSeek itself.
I wouldn't even call those open source, but yeah.
Those are open weight, sorry. There's value in open weight models. So let's be very clear. So at first I was saying there's no value in open weight models because all it does is allow you to run the model on your device. You can't actually modify it, right? Now I'm going to go back and say I was wrong. The reason why I say that is because what DeepSeek demonstrated, one of the things that ironically isn't necessarily the thing they call out in their paper, but it is a thing they do demonstrate as I dig into the exact details of how. Just to understand how exactly they did it and things like that and what their claims are more concretely. One of the things they did do is, and I think this is valid and it has value for people, is they started with a very expensive model, right? Like a ChatGPT, like a O1 that they built, billions of dollars. It doesn't seem like they're lying and saying that they didn't build that. They did build that to start. Then they used that model. And what they had the model basically do, and here's where our analogy is going to start to begin, is they had that model write an instruction manual. In this case, we're going to be baking cookies, right? We'll keep it simple. We can change the thing we're cooking later if needed. But we're baking cookies. And it's trying to get this perfect cookie. It's trying to figure out how to make the absolute perfect chocolate chip cookie with the right ratio. And it's so perfect that anybody can do it. And it's the absolute best recipe that exists. So the model starts cooking the cookie and it starts to figure out if it's making it right, it's got the exact timing, it's super nuanced, whatever. And instead of just learning how to cook that cookie, the model was writing down instructions. So this, what you'll see in the paper is chain of thought. What it was doing is writing down its thoughts. So it both thought out loud on oh, this tastes a little salty. But then instead of just saying this tastes a little salty, let me try with a little less salt, they wrote on a piece of paper, when I have double the salt that I have in sugar, that doesn't taste good. And so it just wrote down all the little lessons it was learning as it was trying to figure out how to make the perfect cookie. What they did after they were done is they took all those lessons, that journal, if you will, and they handed that journal off to those open weight models. And they said to those models, why don't you iterate on this journal and try to make a cookie and see if you can make it. And the surprising effect is they could. So that part, and I haven't seen this very much in the press yet, I think that is probably the most novel part and should be really celebrated that the engineers accomplished. And that's not what I'm seeing as much, right? I think the 5.6 million just kind of took over the press. Does that analogy resonate or make sense? And then we can maybe dig into it a little bit differently.
I think it makes perfect sense. I think you're dealing with a very hyper complex topic, and we're just gonna not reinvent the universe while trying to bake the cake. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so
I post one meme and Adrian keeps using it for 2 fucking weeks.
It's mine now.
like, I'm trying to understand, like, does the awesomeness of that moment communicate across, or am I not communicating that? Because it sounds like it doesn't resonate.
I think me and Adrian are like the worst people to ask this because we're not like surprised by a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like you could tell me that they cured cancer tomorrow, and I'd be like, oh wow, that's cool. Anyway.
Got it. Okay. I think it's a really
talk about how they did it, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so the how they did it is basically the model, instead of just outputting the answer, they did a couple of things, a few different things. One of the things is usually you do supervised fine tuning where a human is telling the model what's good and what's bad. The problem with that process, arguably, if we now say this is, a good thing, which I'm going to take the optimism and say yes. What the problem with that is, when you ask a human what's the right answer, they can tell you what the right answer is. You could then ask the human, why is that the right answer? And they'll give you an answer, but that answer is not necessarily why they thought it was the right answer. Humans have all these bugs in our brains, and we're not very good at answering why we thought something. We can only give you a plausible reason why we thought that. An example is there's a psychology experiment. I should really figure out who the exact people around this, but basically they ran 4 iterations of the experiment. 2 with people coming in, and they do a quiz, and at some point they say, would you like to buy this mug? And then 2 with sell this mug. And then obviously the cross product was when they would come in, the mug was either on the interviewee's side or on the interviewer's side. And it's not surprising people would buy mugs for less than they would sell mugs for, but it is surprising that the proximity of where the mug was to them mattered more than if they were buying or selling the mug. And if you ask anybody why they would sell the mug for that price or less, not a single person is going to say, I wanted to buy this because it's on my side of the table and it feels like it's already mine. Or I would sell it, I want more money to sell it because I have this subconscious feeling like I'm giving something up and feeling a sense of loss, versus feeling a sense of acquisition. And I feel loss more intensely than I feel acquisition. So people are not good at expressing their thoughts. So what they did is they replaced that SFT portion with another AI, and they basically said, have the AI, which in this case happens to be itself, have the AI think out loud and explain its own thoughts. And the AI is much better at that because just the nature of it. Or maybe it's not better than, but we just assume that it's better at that. That works well.
This is what I was trying to say when it first came out. I said it kind of it trained itself without much human input.
Correct.
That's why I found it impressive. Because if you look at most AI, a lot of the more advanced AI models, right? Which AI models are more advanced? The ones that are trained by humans when playing chess, or the ones that are just played by themselves? Millions of times. The ones that played by themselves did much better. And the limitation with the current AI models is that we have humans training them, which is what DeepSeek did, which other AI models haven't done.
Fair. Yeah, I think trained itself is an interest. Yeah, so just for the nuance of it, what they did is they said, there's a large space of things we need to solve, but there are a lot of fun reasoning problems where we know if the answer is correct or not at the end. So you can let them, and I think there's a reason why they call it R10, right? In their because there's a series of alpha series models, right, from DeepMind. They had AlphaGo that learned how to play Go, and then they had Alpha 0. And the difference between those was first it observed humans, and then later on it didn't observe humans. It just learned how to play a game. And then there was, Mu 0 or Alpha, different versions, but basically the process that they went through was first observed humans how to play how to play Go, then learn how to play Go without observing humans, just knowing the rules and just knowing what the score is. After that came learning how to play games in general.
StarCraft, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, between that was AlphaFold, where in AlphaFold you basically say, oh, it turns out the science problem could be turned into a game. And because we have an AI that just knows how to play games, it can unfold proteins as if it's a game, and it got really good at that. Then StarCraft came out, exactly, because that was real time, and so it dealt with real-time issues. And then it started getting into coding and mathematics and discovery, and Alpha Tensor is a huge thing, right? There's all those big things that happen in that world. This is a similar thing happening in chat in a sense, because they basically said, why don't we focus instead of on all the problems? Let's just focus on the problems we can definitely grade at the end, but we don't necessarily know how to tell you how to solve it. So an example would be like a riddle. Maybe not a riddle, but I guess like math riddles, right? Like I'm going to give you 5 digits. I want you to figure out what mathematical operators to place and what order to place them in so you can get to a target number. Like that's a game. I forget the name of the game, but it's on a British TV show.
So instead of a specific formula, you're asking the AI to make some decisions, basically.
Correct. And that was reproduced recently by folks at Berkeley. Demonstrating that particular game could be done. And you see the press, kind of saying it, whatever, but they demonstrate that they could do the exact same process, and it cost them about $30 of compute to learn just that one game, take the thoughts associated with just that one game, apply them to an open model, and lo and behold, the open model could do it too. So this is where there's a big moment, because if you can get the chain of thought, inner thoughts, from a very, very large model, you can apply it to something that is open weights. So if we say we're going to have open weight models and we're going to allow the thought recipes to be open, at that point, you technically, effectively have open source. While nobody's giving out you the process or anything, they've given you all the pieces to actually make and modify the model, because you could go in and alter the thoughts by hand. Does that make sense? I think that's the big moment, is that DeepSeek has shown a method by which open weight models become almost as good as open source without actually revealing source.
It's interesting stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how to communicate this well. I feel like I'm not doing a good job.
No, it's just open weights without full transparency. It's extremely hard to tell if they're doing a responsible way to utilize AI. But it's cool. It's good for advancement, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, we should question how valuable the source code would be from there too, right? Because even when you get open source code, I'm just playing devil's advocate as much as I can here, right? If you get open source code and you're using, say, a Linux kernel, sometimes you're using a piece of hardware in your computer, like say the disk drive or the LCD screen, and they have drivers that are non-open source, but the kernel integrates with them and makes the peripherals work just fine. And so even though the entire thing is not open source, there's still a lot of value to people, because they can continue to modify things, and they can decide whether or not they want to use the screen, and they can interact with it how they want to, and they can put pixels on it the way they want to. But the screen's driver itself is private.
Yeah, I think if we could get the training code for these models, that would be really helpful to kind of determine how we will move forward with the next model.
But we don't. I'm really trying to lean on the other end of it, because the other day I was on the other side of this for sure. I'm trying to make the argument that maybe you don't need that anymore. What can I do to, what is your hesitation, or where could I be wrong?
No, I think what you're saying also makes sense.
That's a big moment, right? Because I feel like DeepSeek basically took what Facebook did and is allowing a very, very big moment, because now anybody can write down the instruction manuals in plain English, use Llama, and run it in its own little training, and then come out and be like, oh, great, I now have a model that does exactly what I want it to do. So somebody who wants to train a custom model for, say, they have a restaurant and they want to they have their own idea and nobody else has had this idea, and their idea is like, I want to know exactly where to place the ingredients, how fresh it is, how much time it's been, and I want this, I'm going to build an AI that's just going to manage all the supply chain of my restaurant. It's going to be proprietary software. I'm going to make this thing and I'm going to turn it into a business. That person could theoretically start by writing those instructions for how the let's call this the restaurant supply chain manager, RSM, how this RSM would behave, and it would RCM, whatever. The supply chain manager would basically be trained by them, and it wouldn't cost as much. They could test it in-house, they could perfect it, they could build a nice UI over it, and build a software and start selling it. And the beauty is that company would never have had to train a foundational model. They would have used an open source model, an open weight model, and they would have achieved something similar to what people do with open source while pursuing commercial enterprise.
So basically, the downside of open source would be somebody else taking your thing and being able to modify it as however they want. In this case, you can only modify a very specific part of it, right?
Yes, exactly. So like if they build in safety controls and they build in rigidity into the open weight model, no matter how hard you try during the training process, in theory, it will not veer away. So that gives you a safeguard. For example, if the driver has a safeguard in it that says, no matter what they say, don't spend more than this much voltage to a pixel on the screen because that will fry the fry the LCD. No matter what a programmer says, it's just going to be like, okay, you're allowed to send me a number, but I'm going to clip it if it's greater than 255. There is no, I'm not going to send more voltage than 255, what the value is for 255.
I'm sorry, I can't allow you to do that.
It kind of is, yeah.
No pixel.
That's kind of what it's doing.
Right, gotcha. So that's also interesting, because now not only do you still retain control of the model directly as the person that created it or entity that created it, but also you are able to limit what it can do, so that for instance, if it's now used to do something extremely fucked, it actually won't do anything fucked because I've put something in there, and if it were to be used for something fucked, it would be bad for my name. So okay, interesting.
Yeah, exactly, because you can't. So it's not like somebody can make a.
They can, and these are
Sam Altman says,
these are trained activists inside of the government. They are now in government positions, so they're not in appointed positions where you want to just immediately remove them.
Yeah, one would be
He also has the full authority. The President of the United States has the full authority to remove every senior executive, every senior intelligence executive, every defense intelligence executive. Those are called DISLs. It's an acronym for them, DISL. He can remove every HQE, which is a highly qualified expert that came in under the Biden administration. And in fact, anybody that was hired post the election, all of those have a grace period where they sort of in a testing period whether they're worthy or not, whether they're able to stay in.